about 95% of the film is real dogs. Yeah.
Wow.
Which, of course, when you have eagles picking up dogs, as you can see in our trailer, that's a sequence that is not with a real dog. That's a great tagline. A perverted Nat Geo documentary. That's great.
First of all, how do you get involved with a project like Strays? Because it's not, well, after Barb Baby, but you have a documentary background, so.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I have a documentary background, and then I made my first feature film, Barb and Star, Go to Vista Del Mar, which was a kind of an off-color, out there, weird sort of movie, which I love. And so I think I was probably trying to figure out what that next project would be. And as you can tell, I tend to like things that are a little maybe weirder and off-center and left of center. And this script came across my desk. I read the log line. It said a story about Reggie, a sweet, naive dog who is abandoned by his mean owner and decides to get revenge by going and biting his owner's most favorite body part off. And so that had me intrigued right away. And then I think when I finally got around to reading the script, not only was it really loud and outrageous and funny, but it had a ton of heart. And that's really, I think, what pulled me in, was that it wasn't simply a dog spoof movie. It was actually really functioned as its own, and it was its own story about toxic relationships, about how to get out of them, about how your friends help you through that, and about finding your own sense of self-worth. So it was a good, loud idea, but then executed well, and that's what sort of first hooked me in.
And how was working with all the special effects? Because I imagine most of the dogs are CGI. I imagine there are some practical as well. But how was that experience, and how much practical dog usage is actually there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I decided to go for as much real dog performance as I possibly could. So in fact, about 95% of the film is real dogs. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I kind of looked at the possibility of how to make the film, and I knew at the core of it, I wanted the dogs to feel as real as possible. And obviously, VFX and CG's come such a long way, but I felt more like we all live with dogs. I've had dogs my whole life, and we know them very, very well and very intimately in a way that I didn't, I could see a CG elephant on screen and be like, that looks really real, but I see an elephant once a year for 1 minute at the zoo when I take my kids. So I really wanted it to feel incredibly real. And so, I got with some incredible animal trainers, and, they really, they pulled incredible performances out of these animals, and that was amazing. And then the remaining sort of 5% is whenever the dogs were, either couldn't do something that we needed or were doing anything remotely unsafe, we went to a full CG dog, which, of course, when you have eagles picking up dogs, as you can see in our trailer, that's a sequence that is not with a real dog. And of course, we then used the VFX to have them talk, because I was unsuccessful in getting the dogs to be able to talk.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, one day. It'll be a lot cheaper. It would be a lot cheaper to make that movie.
Do you feel like your documentary background helped you in actually using real dogs? Because it almost feels, watching it almost feels like a perverted Nat Geo nature documentary.
I'll take that. That's a great tagline. A perverted Nat Geo documentary. That's great. That should be our tagline. I love that. Yeah, I bounce back and forth between documentary and narrative filmmaking, and I think they can inform each other. I think when you're making a doc, you are trying to capture the real world, and you do. You point your cameras at a real subject, and the real world unfolds in front of you. And I think when you're making a narrative film, you're trying to do the same, but you have to set up an environment where you're creating that reality. So they absolutely kind of inform each other for me all the time, and that's why I like to bounce between the two. My latest project is another documentary, so I think I'll keep going back and forth between them until I don't want to do one or the other.